Up gets nothing effect. Has that one taken away by Troy Hellman. It seems like this could be.
Hello and welcome to the Overwatch League recap, a talk show focusing on the Overwatch League. I am BlazzinBob, and today I'm joined by iPlaygames, aka Andres. What's going on, sir?
Doing good, doing good. We just came off of an amazing weekend at the LA Homestand. Some fantastic games, especially for my boys from Atlanta Rain. And we're also at the cusp of Classic WoW releasing. So tons of stuff happening today.
Yeah, it actually was a lot more good games than I was anticipating. I mean, we did have some duds, but I watched,
There are some awesome games.
watched every single one of them because it was the last week and there were only 8 games, so I needed to take in as much as I possibly could. But also joining us is Mel. How you doing, Mel?
I'm good. I'm the only one not in the queue for WoW, but ruined my life once, fooled me once, not again.
You're the smart one of the crew, man.
Oh, but come on. I mean, it's not going to be as bad as it was before. I mean, we've gotten a lot better at the game. You know, like we don't have to. Like we were doing progression rating in vanilla WoW. I mean, that was like an 8-hour, 5 days a week commitment. You know,
It's like a full-time job right
yeah.
there.
But I mean, now all of it's figured out. We just have to do what everybody's already figured out. We don't have to actually figure it out anymore, and so it's not going to be as bad. It's going to
You've
be kind of
literally
like
been in queue for 4 hours, so don't tell me it's not going to ruin your life. Come on.
Oh, 4.5 hours if we want to be completely accurate.
Okay.
But I am 1250 right now, so I'm close. But today, uh, well, first off, let's start by thanking our recap producer Shazir, who has helped us so much. Thank you so much, Shaz. You helped make this possible, and we love you. Today we're going to talk just a little bit of news. There wasn't a ton, but we're mostly going to talk about the games, maybe a little bit about the play-in bracket coming up, and it might be, it's not going to be a super long episode. We're going to get into the 2020 schedule at a later date once everything has been announced and it's a little more. And there's just less to talk about later, so we'll talk about that coming up. We're not gonna waste your time right now. So let's jump right into league news. So the Overwatch League announces yet again another sponsor. Xfinity is going to sponsor the 2019 playoffs and the grand finals. So what do you guys think of this? Like the Overwatch League just gets sponsors constantly. I mean, they are good at getting sponsors.
I think that they've done a pretty good job about reaching out, and I think that being able to gather those big sponsors earlier on in the league and showing that the league not only can attract a large amount of viewers, has been able to do it consistently, and now they're on TV. I think it's easy for them to kind of justify to a lot of these advertisers, like, "Hey, check us out." That being said, this is what they needed, though. From rumors here and there, I know that not a lot of teams are super profitable right now, and there's maybe only like 2 of them that are somewhat close to breaking even in their investment, which actually to me is
Well,
very impressive. And I don't know any numbers and stuff. This is just kind of like hearsay
yeah,
that I heard around. But that being said, the league needs this, right? Especially because soon they're going to be going into profit sharing. Right now, they're not sharing a lot of the profits with the teams, right? But later on, they will have to. So hopefully, these big sponsors coming in are helping recoup those huge costs that I'm sure they sunk in initially, so that once everyone hits into the cities and profit sharing comes in, it runs a little bit smooth because that's really when it's gonna matter, right? That's
yeah.
make it or
Well,
break it.
and I'm curious to know how the profit sharing works because they talked about it before the league even came out, and that's what makes the NFL so sustainable for small market teams is because of profit sharing. And I mean,
Hmm.
it really keeps leagues healthy. So I'm not real sure if it hasn't went in yet or it has, and I find it kind of hard to believe some of the numbers I've been hearing thrown out for revenue. I feel like the numbers we've heard is only the Overwatch League revenue and not team revenue, but I'm not positive.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I don't think a lot of the teams have revealed their own numbers, but I know that no, I don't think there's any of them which have broken even and are making a profit right now, which is
Yeah,
understandable. It's only
broken
2 years.
past.
They went in for the long term game,
Yeah,
not the short term.
honestly, I wouldn't
bucks.
expect to see any like returns even after like 4 or 5 years because it's such a huge investment that they have to put up front. But
If I,
if they keep going and profit share kicks in, like even in 5 years, it's an amazing investment for the amount of money that it costs to buy into the league, right? Like you're talking about millions of dollars that
yep.
they're recouping.
Right.
If I remember correctly, I think Nate stated it was like he expected team investors to recoup their initial investment by the end of the third year or the end of the fourth year, but I can't remember exactly. So just take that as hearsay.
That sounds realistic.
Right.
What do you
But
think,
I
Mel?
think for them getting Xfinity, it makes sense. I mean, they are playing in Philadelphia, the grand finals. That's where Xfinity's based out of.
Home
And
base.
right, Xfinity has a good market because they're internet, right? So marketing to gamers and, pretending like their system is really good, that's fine. They can do that. I don't know. I don't have Xfinity. Do I?
We did have Xfinity at our old place that we just moved from.
Oh,
Because
okay. It
yeah,
was fine.
we could get on the app and watch on our iPads, which we never did. But that was who our cable was
My
through.
internet is Xfinity, but I cut the cable a long time ago.
Hmm.
I'm a cord cutter.
Yep, we cut the cable here.
Well, you
We
can cut
just
it with internet.
no, you
Yeah,
cut
I
the
still have that
cable.
internet cable.
Yeah, you cut the
Yeah,
cable cord.
the cable. But
Yeah.
they did say they'd have a big presence on the digital broadcast as well as at the grand finals, which I think is a little bit different, right? Like a lot of the sponsors have been at the home stands, at least, have been very much like big at the arena that they're at, but maybe not as big on the digital broadcast. So I'm interested to see how they make that a bigger play, so other people are more interested in it.
The Xfinity moment of the match coming up.
Yeah, I wonder
Yeah.
if it's going to be on the Xfinity mobile stuff because they definitely have programs on that are not kind of like the ESPN app, like where they have stuff that's not aired on actual cable. I wonder if Xfinity is going to have it on someplace too. Any extra spot where it's on is good for the league. Let's move on to something a little bit more spicy. Dogman talks some smack on Aero after the win against the Dallas Fuel. Now, I
Okay,
love
listen.
Dogman, but I mean, the Fuel hasn't won a game since the first week of Stage 3. Like, how do you guys feel about Dogman kicking this poor dog while they're down?
Let me just point out that I'm the only unbiased party here.
The
Okay.
only unbiased party.
Because we've
That
got
is
Bob
true.
with the Dallas Fuel Aero
Burn blue,
comments,
baby.
and then we've got Andres with the Atlanta Rain Dogman comments. So you guys duke it out and I'll mediate.
All right. So I know a lot of people get upset, and a lot of people are saying this trash dog has no place in Overwatch. Like, Dogman is being super petty. Like, why do you kick the dog while they're down, or whatever the saying is? But to be honest, none of the trash talk was like personal. Like, he's not like insulting Arrow or like,
He called
you
Aero
know,
incompetent.
Yeah, he called
yeah,
Aero
but
incompetent in
but
interviews.
that is related to their job, right? Like, that is their field, that is what they're playing, that is their stakes. And I'm sure that they have their own opinions about what's going on over there, whether it was in bad taste or not. I don't think it was just that insulting, right? Like, your partners in the same industry, and like, he just thinks that Arrow's not doing a good job, and maybe there was some feelings in there, from the World Cup none of the Atlanta guys got selected for the World Cup, and Aero is the one who's doing all of the selection. So I think that Dogman was trying to give a little jab at him, and what he said after the match on stage, I think that that was good enough. You know, what I mean, like maybe he should have left it at there because that was like not as big of a deal. Then later on, he goes on into the interview, and that's when he calls Aero incompetent, which sounds a little bit more personal. And at that point, sounds like you're attacking his personal coaching style. But that's it. You're not like just straight up insulting him for no reason. I think that it's a critique of Aero as a coach, and I think that as a coach, you have to be ready to take those critiques, whether they come from players or from fans or from other coaches. Some people are going to have opinions on you, and sometimes they're going to get voiced. That's kind of how I see it.
I think the comment on stage was completely fine. It really looked more like Dogman was butthurt that none of his friends got selected.
Yeah.
But I will point out, I don't think Aero selected any Dallas Fuel players either. So it's not
No,
like
no.
it's
No,
not like
it wasn't
there's
like it's a
favoritism.
biased.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't like a biased choosing. He was. I saw it more as a jab, like, oh, you didn't pick any of us, and here we are beating your team, kind of thing.
And
That's how I saw it.
And to be fair, Atlanta wasn't looking good until the Atlanta homestand weekend, and then when 222 came out, and they were doing the selection quite a bit before that. So I thought it
Yeah, and
was,
then there's the argument also that Atlanta looks really good because of guys like Erster, right? Which is not even eligible for
but I mean,
the
Ferd,
US team.
FRD, fried Weeder.
FRD has done a fantastic job, and maybe they missed out on him. I will say that that's the only choice that I would see as clear cut. I think that I'm not saying the Atlanta Rain players should have been in the USA team. I think that there's better choices. We just work really well as a team with the talent that we have right now.
Yep.
I'm just
And
saying there's a Houston player in the World Cup team, but don't worry about it, guys.
I will say Arrow handled it like a true professional, and I mean, honestly,
his teammates though, not so
Uncle
much.
got pissed. Uncle got really pissed, and I think it's
Uncle
just
and AKM.
because I think it's just because that's what makes Arrow such a good coach. I mean, his players would jump in front of a car for him. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
to
that's
them it's like they insulted their dad. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like
it's
in high
exactly
school or
like
something,
that.
and like
Yeah,
the kid insults your dad. Like, oh hell no.
Right.
yeah.
I just think I think Dogman took it too far. I feel like you guys said, his comments on stage were fine, a little spicy, a little fun, but then like taking it to that next level of like continuing to bash Arrow's character and continuing to go down that road and say not just with the World Cup but with the Dallas Fuel and like calling him incompetent. I think that was too much. I think that trash talk's fine, and I know people are like, "Oh, there's no place for this," and I disagree. I think there is place for trash talk, and I think that that's fine. I just think you can't take it so far as Dogman did to kind of just attack Arrow specifically for something that, you know, does Arrow play a part in it? Yeah, I'm sure, but it's not just Arrow. There's a lot of other
And
wheels on that
I
bus that need.
the
Go ahead.
need the need turning. Is that what you're gonna say?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think that Dogman got caught up in the moment and said a lot of dumb crap, and
Yeah.
I got to give him a pass because I say dumb crap all the time, get called on it, and was like, yeah, that was dumb. I should have said that. I'm sure Dogman regrets it now, whether he
Well,
chooses
he
to
was wearing
save.
the clown hair the next day. I
Yeah,
think he
and
was
I mean, like he's
embracing. I think
trying
he was
to.
embracing that persona. Like, I'm just clowning around over here.
Yeah,
Well, and you didn't see him double down on Twitter, right? Like there wasn't a lot of like him fighting back on Twitter, being like, arguing for his comments. Whereas I think if he still felt that way, he'd have a bigger presence on Twitter where everybody
Yeah,
else was commenting.
to me, how it felt was like the comment after the stage was good, just banter, just throwing some shade at the other team. But then they instigated it a little bit, right? Like the interviewers were like, "Hey, tell us a little bit more
Oh
about this.
yeah.
What are your feelings on Aero, kind of thing." And I think is what Bob said. Like sometimes we're in the spot and you get asked certain questions and you don't have a lot of time to think how you're gonna word your answer, it just comes out sounding really bad. And I don't think he was personally thinking like I'm gonna rail down on Aero, but it's just how it ended up coming out. And like you said, he didn't end up putting more fire into or more logs into the fire after that. So
Touche
I
to
think
Fred though, because Fred
what-
was the one that was like, "You don't have to answer any more questions about Dallas." He's like, "Oh, okay."
Dude, he's a real solid dude. The two people I was super impressed with for first time meeting, because like there's a lot of people I'm impressed with that were at Atlanta, but the two people that I met for the first time was FRD and Stratus. Those two people really impressed me with how professional, funny, personable they were. I mean, just
and
a
how
pleasure
eager
to
they wanted to
talk
be
to.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
Mhm.
wanted to be there and be a part of it. Yeah, for sure. FRD just continues to impress in every front.
Dude, why didn't we
Fred. His
record
name's Fred.
him telling us the whole story about his name? Like we're just sitting there just shooting the crap with him after the interview, and then we didn't even record that. Why?
It is a pretty
Most
good
of the
interview
good
though. If anyone
moments.
wants to check it out, it's on I'll Recap YouTube channel.
Yep. But yeah, it's just I think that the shade is fine. I think the people need to just, you were in the public eye. Like Unco, I feel bad for him because he's really taking that stuff personally, and people tell me I suck all the time. I know it's not to the magnitude that Fuel players and coaches get, but you just have to let it brush over because not
But I
everybody's gonna
think
like you. Like,
But I
and
also think emotions are running high for Fuel right now too, because Fuel's not stupid and they know that some major changes are going to come to their team. You can't lose the last half of a season and not make any changes to your team unless you're the Houston Outlaws. You definitely can, apparently. But
And the thing
for
is,
the most part, like changes are coming, and so them throwing Arrow under the bus just makes them think that Arrow's more in the spotlight of like being the one responsible, and maybe they don't think that that's the case. And like, I think there's just a lot going on that they're trying to handle mentally.
and the thing is, when you're in a position like any of them are, criticism is going to come no matter what. It's just
Right.
going to happen. Like when in the history of the earth have we had a public figure that never got criticized for anything they did? Even
Shanghai Dragons last year, and I don't get it. It's like
no,
everybody still loved them. Everybody.
they got plenty criticism. I think
I
that it
mean,
was endearing how much they were losing, but they got plenty criticism to the point that they disbanded their entire roster at the end of the season. But think not just like Overwatch League players, like musicians, artists, politicians, anyone who's in the public eye is going to be criticized because you can never make everyone happy, especially if you have a job that is very coveted and that a lot of people would want to get. Um, People are going to have their own opinions, even people who maybe shouldn't have their own
yeah,
opinions,
that
who
don't
maybe
really know what
weren't,
they're talking about. Exactly.
they're still going to have opinions. And the people who you work with are also going to have opinions and they're going to be
grass is
voiced.
always greener on the other side.
Exactly. And I think that it wasn't disrespectful. Like, yeah, it was a straight criticism of your job, and that comes out as harsh. Um, and I'm not saying that Aero is incompetent either. I think that he's done a fantastic job with what he has. It's unfortunate that the team hasn't, pan out how they would like it to pan out. But I feel like criticism is still valid, and you just have to accept it. Like, deal with it however you want to deal with it. Come on back and prove him wrong, right? Come back next season and beat everyone and be like, what do you say, Dogman? Tell me that again. But I
I
don't know,
mean,
like
he did
you have
play
Yeah.
to embrace
Zachary
it.
last World Cup, so
All
like,
right. Well, and what's funny is the Fuel. Like everybody gives their DPS shit. And yes, their DPS are definitely streaky, deep DPS. But if you ask me what the problem's been this year, I would say closer. Like closer is a support that constantly takes one-on-one duels when he should be healing his team and getting back to his team and resetting. Like sometimes he'll take one-on-ones after the team is lost and he could have reset and they could have saved, 10 or 15 seconds. So but no one ever talks about that. So it's just I don't. I think Dallas has had a rough year. It's a bummer. Hopefully they come back strong next year. But they did end this season with a bang. It was a 3-1 victory for the Atlanta Reign. But boy, it was not an easy matchup for Atlanta. It was toe to toe, tooth to tooth, all well for three of the maps. The first map they just got rolled, like on control. They just got rolled. But then
They
after
did.
that, it was a matter of meters for each map. Like the second map was Volskaya, and Atlanta just rolls through and has like 5 minutes something left. And I'm like, man, Fuel, oh, you guys are just gonna get hammered. And then they come back and make that a super close match. Like they played well. I really think that they played really really well.
I do think they played well, and if Atlanta hadn't gotten their stuff together, I think that they could have lost that match. It wasn't a super big deal for Atlanta to lose it, although that did secure him the playoffs rather than play-in. So big moves. I'm happy that it ended up panning out. I will say that Fuel did look better than they've looked before, especially going against a team that right now is undefeated and ended with a perfect stage. So I do gotta give that to them. But I'm super happy with the results, and man, we're flying high right now.
Yeah, well, you
Well, I
you
think
went
they
on.
didn't.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I think they didn't switch out their main tank. Like, shocker, that made him look a little bit better and consistent, right? Like OGE stayed in the whole time. Now, I will say they did put Mickey in on the fourth map again, and I love them more for that because
They had to give him one. They had to give him one last hurrah.
listen, I could just like I like Dallas Fuel when they play Mickey because his smile is so contagious and like he just makes me want to like them as much as I want to not. But I think them switching out AKM and Taimu is fine, but them switching out Trill and OG is just stupid.
Uh, yeah.
Taimu has been looking. It's interesting because he is very streaky, like you were saying, Bob.
They
He'll be
all
in the
are.
middle of the maps, yeah, and he pops off in certain maps. And when he pops off, they're able to control. They're like, okay, this is our territory. You're not coming in. But then next push comes in, and he just doesn't get any shots in, and then they get rolled. So it's, yeah,
And
it's
then
a
like,
very interesting conundrum there.
and then like A Camp super streaky too. I wish Soldier would have been in the meta one time this entire season two, because man, AKM Soldier is out of this world. It's like Fran Soldier. I mean, he just doesn't lose his mark, and would have loved to have seen that, but oh, Soldier hasn't been meta for back in my day. Soldier used to be meta.
The shields are too strong for Soldier.
Yep. But the rain continued on the second day, 4-0ing the Boston Uprising. And this was not, this 4-0 says exactly what the game was. It was a smacking. I mean, they just got destroyed.
It was not
So,
much of a game.
Man, Boston right now is just bleeding and bleeding bad. They're just on the ground. People keep stomping on them. Nobody's looking back. Nobody's helping them get up. They are in rock bottom right now. I feel real bad for Fusions because he started off the season so well and ended completely on the opposite side. He was one of the players that I thought was going to bring his team to the finals, to the playoffs, and just to watch him fall off like this on the past few stages is unfortunate. But Goats was their meta. I think that they knew how to play Goats really well, and especially when you had fusions on Reinhardt, man, that team was looking solid. But now that Goats is gone, this 2-2 probably hit him the hardest. They were the most affected team by this change of meta, and some changes are gonna have to happen because they don't have a very flexible roster right now. And I don't know how coaching or management has been going, but they also have not been able to figure out something that works well for them. They don't have any strengths right now that I can like see. They're basically getting destroyed on every front. The tanks, the DPS are getting outplayed.
Color
Their
X is pretty good,
supports.
but Yeah, Blase
I mean, they're
has
good, but
left
just
room for
cannot
one
find like
thing, and
a room to breathe, basically.
Did you guys see the play where Gator came in on like the last map and killed the May? I think it was Stellar on Boston, and then was tactical crouching and dancing on him with Orisa. And Color X just headshots him on Widow. It's like it was like that's what you get.
that's why you don't do that crap. Like,
That is what you-
stop emoting when you don't need to. Like, you guys, like, there's no reason to do that. All you
But
do
again,
is
that
just
be
that also
fair.
says something for the match. That's how serious Atlanta was probably taking it towards the end.
Yeah, I mean they had Gator, who I don't think has played hardly at all, and Funny
Not
Astro.
this season,
and
no.
So like they were
Neither
pretty
of those
much just,
has played at all, I think.
right, and they still killed it. So like,
I mean, that was their last game of the season,
right,
and they were in. Like they had already won the first 3 games.
yeah.
So there was literally nothing that could go wrong at that point, and it's a good move. Give your players that are up and coming, that haven't had a chance to hit the big stage, to play with the roster, right? Give him that experience, especially if it's low key, right? There's no stakes. So at that point, you let them do whatever they want.
yeah, that happened a lot with the teams that are out, and happened a lot with the teams up at top. Like, for instance, in my daily fantasy league on fantasyowl.com, I played Twilight, who I'm pretty sure hasn't missed a game for, gosh, like 20 games. But no, he doesn't play Saturday. All of a sudden, just doesn't play. I'm like, are you kidding me right now? Like, fantasy was rough this entire week because they were just letting different people play, and I mean that's cool, but it was a bummer for fantasy.
I feel like
So
that's why, like, even in fantasy football, it's why you don't ever play like the last couple weeks, is because teams already know their fate and
yep,
there's
that's
a lot
why
less to play for. You know,
lots of leagues end 1 or 2 weeks early because of that exact reason. Like teams that
Makes
are
sense.
rolling, like sit there like
It's
main
too volatile.
players.
Nobody can predict that.
Yeah. So it might be something that fantasy people have to look into, but it was still daily, so it's not as big of a deal as just like regular fantasy. But let's talk about the Shock. The Shock played the Titans and they played NYXL. They beat them.
no, they played
Valiant.
Valiant.
Oh, sorry. I was looking at the Titans. Okay, so yeah, Shock played the Titans. It was their third match, I think, this season, if you're including playoff bouts. Is that right? Third or fourth match?
I think so. Is that the third time that they play against each other if you count the playoff, the finals, and the stages that they met? Might be fourth actually, because they've played twice
I
on
think
the
it's
season,
gotta. Yeah, I think
and
it's
then
gotta
they
be
played
fourth,
twice
right?
on finals. So yeah, this
Yeah,
might be
they
the fourth
played
time that they played.
each other once because they're in different divisions, different conferences, and then they played. They played once for that. They played twice before in stage playoffs, and this was the fourth time. But the Shock has won 3 of those matchups, right? I'm not
Yeah,
positive of
Shock
that.
at this
Chat, can
point
you help me
has
out?
at this point I think Shock has positioned themselves as the better team over Vancouver Titans because at this point Shock has beaten them in their own meta with goats, and now they've beaten them. I think twice or once? No, just once on the new meta, basically. But this was an epic matchup. That being said, the
Oh yeah.
Titans, man, they came out to play, and it was very back and forth. Up until the fourth map, nobody knew who was gonna win. Honestly, Shock looked very dominant in certain maps, but Vancouver was back to their aggressive self. I think that they were playing really, really well. And
And
we had some
it's
fantastic plays from both sides.
and it seems like they've gotten themselves a like Vancouver looked a little shaky. It seems like they they have figured out the meta better than week 2 on till now, because week 1 they just rolled with Genji play, but like then Genji fell out of love for some reason in week 2, and they haven't looked good for a while. Now they're looking like they have a grasp on it, but it looks like the Shock, no matter who they put in, just plays. Although I will say it looks like Super has lost his spot, and is it Smurf? Smurf's taken
I
over.
think so. And I was gonna mention that it almost looks like for this new meta, they've assumed more of a Korean roster than anything else. Because when they were playing against Vancouver specifically, the only non-Korean was Moth. And one thing that I noticed is that Rascal was being super vocal. On past metas and on past rosters that we've seen from Shock, Super is usually the person who you see talking a lot. Sinatra would be talking a lot. But with those two gone and out of the bench, I noticed that he was Rascal who was kind of taking the lead in a lot of these plays. And I almost wonder if a lot of the communication was brought back into Korean because I think I saw Rascal just like talking a bunch several times, and they would like pan to Moth, and he would just be like dead silent, just looking at the screen. So I don't know if just his personality and stuff, but I wonder how that dynamic has changed because definitely the roster is looking a little bit different, equally as effective
Almost
though.
all Korean. It's
Yeah,
Moth is the only
yeah.
one
Moth is the only one who was playing non-Korean.
that's not Korean that's in the main roster. But yeah, Mel
I
looked
think
to me after it was after one of the Shocks games, and they were interviewing Rascal, and she was just like, "I'm sorry, Bobby," and I was like, "What? Why?" It's like, "Well, because you guys had Rascal," and I was like, "Yeah, I know. We also had Custa." But I'm pretty sure Kai Kai burnt both of those bridges. I don't know for sure. It's speculation, but
I also don't know
Man,
if Rascal was just
Rascal
a
has
good
blossomed.
fit in Dallas, right? Like it was a mainly Western roster in Dallas, and he's shining on San Francisco right now. And there are a lot of Korean players, and he might just be able to communicate better, right?
But to be fair, he was doing really good when Super and Sinatra were the main ones on the roster as well. He was killing
yep.
it on Brig
And Baptiste,
and Bap.
But then
for sure.
the Shock after they beat the Titans 3-2, they go on the next day to play the poor Valiant, and they just stomped Valiant, and it's a bummer because the Valiant had been beaten on you know on a really close game against the Gladiators the day before, but the Valiant now are the only team to have lost games at their homestand.
Yeah, but how
I
much of a
it's
homestand
rough.
was it really? Like, I mean,
Yeah,
I get it, but like all the games are played in LA. So like you've already got like the mixed crowd that is LA. And then you also have another team that's playing in your same city, right? So like I feel like the Gladiators fans were just as big as the Valiant fans there. I don't think there was as many Shock fans there because they're a couple hours away, but like you
that's still
you
a
just
fair amount though.
yeah,
There
I
was
mean
a
I'm sure
fair
that
amount of every fan there. It was definitely different
It's
than
been the
anything I've
least
seen.
one-sided homestand so far, for
for sure.
sure.
Yeah, it was just like in Dallas. I mean, it was like if we're being honest, it was 85-15, maybe even 90-10 Dallas to Houston fans.
But
A
I think
lot
that's
of even
similar
the
to like
Houston
San
fans.
Francisco to LA. You know what I mean? Like it's that far of a distance
Yeah,
between.
but what I'm saying is that when I looked in the crowd we're gonna have to talk to Jeremy who did coverage for us there, but it looked like the majority of the Valiant fans were in that section, and it's about the same amount of people that are there during the Valiant games at the Blizzard Arena. And it's just kind of a bummer. It's the whole problem with LA and like every sport. Like LA is like a city that nobody's from. Nobody like ever is like I'm from LA. Like they came to LA. If you go to a bar during Sundays, there is a million different jerseys of every different team, and there's a million TVs and little pockets of fans. But when we went to Atlanta and Dallas, I mean, we're talking the whole auditorium was almost the majority was fans of that team. And
That's true. Although to be fair, Atlanta is kind of like that too. Nobody's from Atlanta. Everyone arrived here somehow.
But you also have to think too, like, what is the advantage of a homestand for LA when they have a homestand every week, right? So like every time they play, there is LA fans in the crowd, and so that's I think what the big upside to Dallas and Atlanta was is that they weren't used to that, right? They weren't used to having a bunch of
very true,
people
very true.
calling their names and rooting for them. LA kind of is. So the upper hand that they get from having it in their stadium with the same amount of kind of hype as they usually have, I don't think that gave them an upper hand. And they played the other two California teams, right? So like I think they would have had a better shot if they were playing like, Titans, even though Titans are still good. But even if they were playing a team like that even none of the crowd was rooting for, right? Or very minimal of the crowd was rooting for.
I do feel really bad for LA Valiant though, because that game cost them playoffs basically. The game that was supposed to be theirs, their special, homestand, this is your moment to shine. They got robbed from their chance to go into playoffs. And I mean, props to San Francisco. They're playing out of their minds. And honestly, I don't think that Valiant deserved to win that match. They have it. Their play has been very shaky, and this season they've been on and off. They've had some moments where they looked like, ooh, maybe they've woken up, but I think it was a little bit too late, and they couldn't bring it back. But it's sad because they're literally one win
One
away
win from it,
from
yeah.
beating
How
Chengdu
much of a
Hunters.
party do you think Chengdu Hunters was having after they
Oh my
lost
god, they were so happy.
Champagne was
They're biting their
opening.
nails.
right? But let's be real. Like, if they were going to get in, they were going to have to beat the Gladiators. Like,
Which they totally could have. I mean,
they could have beat the Gladiators.
play that game over again. I definitely think Valiant can win. Like Shock was
I don't
the
know.
really
Surefour
hard
really
one
played.
for him.
It's
Surefour
true.
really played out
They
of
had
his
two
mind the last
chances. They
couple
had
of
two chances. They couldn't take him. I don't blame Custa for playing World of Warcraft right now. He's like, I need a break. I need a break. It's two losses.
But I do think it's really cool. Like, not really cool, but it's funny that this last week of the regular season, we get some of the matchups that we've like wanted all season, right? So like New York versus Titans, we get Shock versus Titans, we get, like it's a lot of good games, but
And
it didn't mean as much.
New York didn't look bad. Like New York played the Titans, and they played the Uprising. The Uprising took a map off of them, which is a little scary, but they played the Titans to a 3-2-5 map set, and man, I feel like they just should have kept Flower in. Like they should have had Flower in the entire game because the matches that they won, Flower was hardcore carrying.
Yeah,
Flower
I
is
mean, I think
back. He's been dormant though, because we've honestly haven't really seen him perform since like the original World Cup where he blew everyone's mind with his Widowmaker.
Yep,
yes, it
yep.
was very depressing. But
2017.
yeah, but I think Flower had his moments, but I don't think it was all Flower, right? Like it's easy to pop off when you're playing Widow, or I think he played Doomfist some, right?
A little bit of Doomfist.
Yeah. And I think, yeah, he
He played some
looked good,
Hanzo and
but I think for the most part, like New York lost a map to Uprising because that's New York. And New York's like, I'm not going to give it my all for Uprising,
yeah,
And so
you have a point there.
I don't think that's anything to be too concerned about. I think the fact that they did step up and make it a game against Titans shows us that there is hope that New York won't completely bomb out in the playoffs. And
They're not out of the running yet.
yeah,
But
they showed us that there's a light for them.
speaking of
They're still
bombing out,
second place right now as division leaders. If you're
Right.
just looking at playoffs, they're in second place as leaders of their division. So say whatever you want about New York, but they're still one of the top teams.
speaking of bombing out in the playoffs, how about those Dragons 4-0'd by the Spark? Somebody who struggled, a team that struggled at the start of the 2-2-2 meta change. Like, is the Dragons like they're in play-ins? Wait, no, the Dragons are in the actual playoffs, right? Or no? Nope, nope.
Dragons
Playins,
are
playins.
in
No, they're in the
planes. They're
play-ins.
11th place, so barely made it. Yeah.
Yeah, because they've like, have they well, they won one game here. I'm trying to look real quick. Have they won one game in stage 4? Is that right?
Yeah, I think they've won at least one game
One
in
and
stage 4.
six. Yep, 1-6 in stage 4. Shanghai Dragons, winner of the stage 3 playoffs, has went 1-6. They got rolled by Spark. Do they have any chance in the play-ins?
I don't know. It's looking tough because I think that their secret sauce got taken away from them. They're
Mhm.
being able to play Sombra, Jinmu on not Jinmu, Ding on the Farah, and then having somebody else playing, another DPS and have that wrecking ball. They were doing so good, and that team worked so well. Like every one of those players like knew what they were doing, and everyone was a force to be reckoned with. And if you try to go for one, the other two would punish you, and that got taken away from them. It got ripped off, and
Like
it
a
sucks
band-aid.
because they're one of their best players. Their Sombra player can't pop off like he used to anymore. Just Sombra is just not as good. And he had the goats meta figured out. He was like, I know how goats work, and I'm gonna counter it as hard as I can with the Sombra. And it was working. Not anymore. And to make things worse, Spark has actually been the opposite. They're a team that actually struggled initially on the change of meta, but they've picked up the pace quite a bit, and now they're looking quite good. Spark has been one of those teams that has started slow, but over time they improved very quickly, and it's happened both times with Goats and with 222. So honestly, props to Spark and their coaching team because
Yeah, especially after losing their number one DPS in Crystal.
yeah, absolutely. Like I think
Yeah.
they've done a great job recovering, and they're looking good going into playoffs.
Right. I think Godspeed's looking really good. I think my biggest worry about Spark going into playoffs is that they don't adapt very quickly. Right. And so we know there's going to be a new patch and a
Sigma is coming
new,
in, yeah.
yeah, the new balance patch and Sigma is all going to be there. And Spark has one shot to, well, I
No,
guess
they
they're
have
in the
two
double
shots.
elimination.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
are in the actual
So they
playoffs.
are in the playoff bracket. So maybe, but I don't know. I mean, is 2 games going to be enough to get them caught up to the meta? Like they're going to have to put in a lot of work to make sure that they can get
We'll
there.
have to see though. Will the meta change? Will Sigma become a mainstay or a big part of that meta? Will teams be able to figure out a strategy where they can catch the team off guard and go through it, or will Bunker and sort of the meta game that we've been seeing with the May, Orisa, Hog, and Reaper still be dominant? Right? Because as of right now, Reaper and May look very scary if you're a Sigma. So we'll have to see how the patch affects things. Will Brigitte even make it, right? Will some teams tech the new Brigitte against this May Reaper combo, which
Will
might
Symmetra
work?
just destroy face?
Well, Symmetra's getting changes, and I'm willing to bet that the changes coming to Symmetra will be live for the patch that
I
Overwatch
was
League
wondering
gets.
that too. Yeah, I'll like because they did say
She's
in
out of
their
hand right now.
announcement about Sigma, they did say that that the balance patch, which continues to be iterated on PTR, will be in playoffs. So it's very possible that those go in, even though they're not on our live servers yet.
Yeah, Zarya and Symmetra right now are doing insane amounts of damage. Since their beam changes, making them more reliable, they can charge their beams up really fast. And it's very easy for them to keep the beam on the target and deal insane amounts of damage. I'm sure that if you guys have been playing competitive Overwatch on the ladder for the past few weeks, you've seen an insane amount of Symmetras rolling around and just killing
Well,
everyone. That is why.
you have to be good at some metro though, because when we were doing my DPS placements, which I will say, I placed 3108 on DPS. I was pretty proud
Nice.
of that. I'm pretty sure you were there. No, you weren't there. It was Yankee and I don't. Okay, but Rob was there. I'm pretty sure. I'm not sure though. But yeah, I tried Symmetra for one push, and I just fed twice. And so I was like, all right, well, I guess I'd probably need some practice before I play that. So don't just think you can jump in comp player. She's not OP to the to the degree that you don't need some practice with her first. But talking about play-ins, we've got the Charge, the Hunters, the Spitfire, the Fusion, the Dragons, and the Dynasty. Only 2 can get in, and from the looks of the play-in bracket, it's one of Charge, Hunters, or Spitfire, and one of Fusions, Dragons, or Dynasty. Now, these are the 2 different conferences. So, what team do you think is going to make it to the actual playoffs? What 2 teams? If you look at the notes, you'll see.
It reseats though, doesn't it?
I don't know
Yeah,
that it
lowest
does.
remaining seed, highest remaining seed. So say the
You're
Hunters
right,
beat the
you're right.
Charge, and the Fusion beats the Dragons, then the Fusion would play Spitfire, and the Hunters would play Dynasty, or vice versa.
All right. Well, what are your guys' predictions?
So from the bottom 7 to 12, who of those will make it?
Yeah, if you just scroll down in the notes, the play-in bracket is like an orange graphic. You should be able to see them right there.
Oh, I see it. From this bracket, I think that Dynasty has a good chance. I think that knowing Spitfire, they have a pretty good chance of getting out of this. This is usually the time where they start waking up and they're like, we should actually win these games because, they actually do matter. So Spitfire is looking good. Fusion is up in the air for me. I think that they've been a little bit shaky, and I wouldn't be surprised if Fusion actually doesn't make it out of the bracket. Charge has a good chance. Hunters, I don't think they're gonna make it out, and Dragons, unless they get that secret sauce back, I don't think they're making it out. So my bet is for Dynasty, Spitfire, or Charge. Those are my top 3. Although you said top 2, right?
Yeah.
2.
The 2 that make it in.
Might go for Dynasty and Charge.
Okay, Mel.
So I think the Charge is going to beat the Hunters, and I think Fusion's going to beat the Dragons. So that would put Spitfire playing Fusion and Dynasty playing Charge. I think Charge will beat Dynasty, and I think Spitfire will beat Fusion. So I'm going to go with Charge and Spitfire.
Oh, you're right. I don't think it's actually possible for Charge and Dynasty to go through because more than likely, if Charge wins, they'll go up against Dynasty. So it'll be one or the other. Yeah. So
I don't think there's any way they don't go up against Dynasty.
So I changed mine. I go with Charge and Spitfire.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah. You hear the light after Melissa shows you.
So
I didn't
Melissa said almost exactly what I was going to say. I do think Charge beat the Hunters, and I think Fusion beat the Dragons. But I think Fusion beats Spitfire and Charge beats Dynasty, putting Fusions and Charge into the playoffs. I think Fusion's going to be playing Spitfire hard, and Fusion has
rematch
looked,
of the finals right there.
Yeah, Fusion has looked.
Do you guys
really
remember the
good.
finals?
As of late, Fusion has looked really good. So, do not count them out. I think it's Fusion and Charge.
I mean, come on. Fusion already had their chance at the finals and they blew it. I only got to see one match. Like, they could have carried it out to a couple more for me.
It wasn't
but they
Fusion's
didn't.
fault that you got
So
stuck in Dallas.
Okay, but it was Fusion's fault that they got beat in 3 maps. Okay?
True.
Just saying. They could have done
They
better.
could have stretched a little bit. I agree.
Yeah, right? So they get no more chances from me.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna get to find out. Do we know when they're gonna play? Hold on.
Yeah, 8:30
Right.
and 8:31, August 30th and 31st.
All right. So all the play-ins are gonna be played
Friday and Saturday.
this weekend, and then the ending will be Sunday. Is that right?
No, Friday and Saturday, and then the ending is just they advance to the regular playoff bracket, which starts on the 5th.
Oh, you're right, because the winners don't have to play each other.
Yeah, they don't play each other.
Yeah.
Although I feel like they should for seeding. You know? and
Yeah.
it'd be just a cool match to have on.
Oh, they can do seeding based on their scores.
They can, but it would be cool. I mean, it's playoffs. Like playoffs.
So
It's
the play-in
play-ins.
winner, so the sixth or the eighth seed plays the Titans, and the seventh seed plays Excelsior.
Oh man, I'm looking at the playoff bracket though, and Atlanta Reign is going against Shock first. That is their first matchup, and I
Yeah,
know
that's
that
what they
I was
got for
hoping
winning.
I was hoping to see Atlanta Reign versus Shock, just not this early. I was hoping
Not
that was
If
gonna
map
be
one.
the final or something.
but I think though, if Atlanta Reign beats Shock, they take it all.
Yeah, that's true. We gotta take our biggest contenders right off the bat.
But
I don't know,
remember
guys. I feel
though,
like
the
Charge has
actual
a.
playoffs are double elimination this year. So if you lose, you still have a chance. You go to the losers bracket, kind of like that.
Oh, okay, I like that.
Kind of like the bracket that we did when we did the Podcasters United team in the that
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All
tournament.
losers, all losers will go to their separate bracket, and then the winner of the losers gets to challenge the uh the
Yeah,
winner of the winners.
you have to be beaten twice in the actual playoffs to get knocked out. So it's like you rewrite that Eminem song instead of you got one shot, you got two shots. So, um, what else do we have to talk about? Because it's been kind of a short episode here.
It was a short weekend of games, to be honest. I think
Yeah.
Yeah,
that
it was.
the games that mattered this weekend were very minimal. I think that for Atlanta, it was a big moment, being able to clutch that spot. But for everyone else, he was basically, I'm not making it to the games, or I've already made it. So these are just kind of for funsies.
Yeah, if
Right.
chat has any questions, you get them in quick. We might be able to answer before the end of this episode. Um, Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what else to talk about because we do have a long playoff run here because we were looking into it for future guests on the show, trying to figure out a good time to have them, and they don't make sense to have during playoffs. The playoffs are here for the next few weeks, so we've got quite a bit of playoff action, and I don't know about you guys, but I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, I think I've liked the timeline of this season a little bit better than last season. I think that the games have been uh, more consistent, and the reduced amount of games per week has been a bit nicer. I know that going into next season, we're gonna get even more reduced amount of games, which I honestly am looking forward to. Like, I love that
Hmm.
Overwatch League is on all the time. I like that it's on every week, and every week I get to look forward to new games, but I do hope that the volume of them becomes a little bit less. So as a fan, especially as a super fan, it's a little bit easier to follow and to soak in. I want to watch honestly as many games as I can, but with 4 games from Wednesday through Saturday, it's just physically impossible unless you just have no life
Yeah,
outside of that.
Right.
it's
And I know that's by design, but I don't know. I'm looking forward to less of volume there.
I am too, and it's going to be interesting because we don't know for sure what this show is going to do next season, but it's very possible that we don't even really follow the Asia teams. We could tell you what, the internet has as stats, but it's most likely we will not be waking up at 2 a.m. and 3 a.m. to watch these games, which will give you better coverage on the games that are local, but we just might not be very knowledgeable on what the Eastern teams are doing, which I don't see as a
We're
real
gonna have to
problem.
grab Rob to be our Asia representative.
Dude,
He'll be
maybe
Right.
awake.
maybe we should dude, we should talk to Rob. That's not a bad idea. He could be our Eastern correspondent. Rob
There you go.
May.
Straight from the east.
Yeah, but so we do have a question in chat. Who is going to be the best Sigma? Let's just each say one answer. It's got to be someone who's in play-ins. Let's just go with someone who's in play-ins because that's what's happening this week. So, Charge, Hunters, Spitfire, Fusions, Dragons, Dynasty. Who do you think who do you think has the most chance to play Sigma, and who do you think will be the
I
best?
think if we actually get to see Sigma from anybody, it might be one of the Chinese teams, either Dragons or Hunters. So my guess, or actually Charge might pull it off too.
Guess a
They're kind of
name.
quirky like that too.
One tank. Guess them.
What's the off tank from Charge?
Oh shoot. Not Happa.
No, I'm looking out on his
Rio?
name.
Rio?
Okay,
Rio?
Rio.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it's Rio. I'm gonna go for that.
Mel.
Fraggy. Fraggy's that's always been practicing, guys.
Interesting choice. You think they've been keeping him in a room just practicing?
They're like, Fraggy, you need to get good at Sigma if you want to be on the stage. Go.
They
Yeah.
locked him in, and he's like, "You gotta feel like Sigma feels, so you can be one with Sigma." He's in an insane asylum right now, wrapped in
Right.
See-
one of those shirts.
I'm torn between Fury playing Sigma as an off tank or Ameng from the Hunters playing him as a main tank. I'm torn between them, but I'm gonna go Ameng because I play with the Chinese teams, and they just have bigger balls, to be quite honest. You know what I mean? They don't care. Like, they will try and innovate when other teams just go with what everybody else is doing and try to do that better, which I don't agree with. I think you should innovate, and I think that's the best way to move forward. So I'm going to go with Ameng from the Hunters.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's so much up in the air too. Like, is he a main tank? Is he an off tank? How are you going to use him? Right? Are you going to do double barriers? Like, because that would change who we think is going to play them too. You know?
Yeah, if you're going to do double barriers, it would probably be played as an off tank, but could definitely see, someone trying the Zarya move. It depends on if the Zarya stuff comes in or not, but I don't know. We needed that before this show. Like, we need to know exactly what's going on. Like, it's happening Friday. So,
well, it just says too on the Overwatch League, on the news for Overwatch League, it just says view current patch. It doesn't tell you like which one it is. So I think it's
if it's the one that's on live, then it's very possible Sigma Zarya could get played too.
right, but then it bugs the question of like everybody's best Zarya was a DPS player. So
True.
do you put a DPS player in as your second tank?
If you're gonna run Zarya permanently, I would say yeah. And they can. I mean, some of the DPS players can flex into Roadhog, which is not a huge like weird transition, right? Right, like
Right.
Roadhog sometimes still plays as a DPS, so I think that role is flexible, and I could see players like Sinatra coming in as the off tank in some of those roles.
But remember, correct me if I'm wrong, chat, or either of you, but the only, in stage 4 here with the 222, the only player to flex to a different role has been Rascal, where he is
Hydration?
actually literally, and thank you, and hydration. Hydration
There are
switched
a
the
few
ball.
pretty flexible players, but we just haven't seen it,
Yeah,
right?
but as it
No,
happened,
somebody else did it this week too.
because Rascal has actually stood up and switched
is a
seats because
flex
they
god,
make
dude.
him switch. They make him switch seats now. So like
I
he's
think-
jumped up, switched over, played Baptiste. Like,
I think Rascal is one of the only players who we've actually seen play almost every role, if not every role in the league, to pretty good success.
has
Mhm.
he played tank?
I
don't think
can't think
so.
of it. No, now that I mention it, I don't think he's played tank. Because I thought he played Diva for a little bit, but no, he didn't. Not in Dallas Fuel. That was
Yeah.
Seagull.
Oh yeah, Seagull, and yeah, they also had Taimu go on Winston for a little while. Thanks, Kai Kai. All right, but I think we don't have any more questions in chat. It's been kind of a short episode, but we need to get our grind on WoW Classic so we can play some more Overwatch this weekend. Um, how did y'all's placements go?
Placements went pretty well. I think my highest ended up being tank for some reason.
Mine
My
too.
my rankings ended up being really close to what my ending SR from last season was. So I didn't see much difference from roll queue from, what I had before to now. So I don't exactly know how those are working
It
because yeah,
was
my
very
tank ended up
different
like
from PTR.
3250, DPS ended up like 3150 or something like that, and then support I ended up like straight at diamond, and then I started messing with a bunch of supports that I filled out like quite low with my support.
Oh
That's been
man.
my messing around role.
I feel like it mattered more like if you won, how many of your placements you won versus lost. Whereas in the past, I felt like it was more so just your performance.
I thought it was really weird because on the PTR, my SR was actually very volatile in that sense, but on the live servers, it was actually very rigid. So
I'm pretty
not sure
sure.
how that works.
Yeah, because I placed on PTR. I placed 3200 tank. I placed 2800 DPS, and I placed really high gold 24 like 86 support. Right, but then on live, I placed 3200 tank, 3100 DPS, and 2800 support. I feel like the PTR literally just made everybody look like they were a brand new account because the big jumps after your placements is something that I've seen on every new account I've ever made, and I have 5. So like
Hmm.
you always have those big jumps up or down after placements, and it's just their way of really pushing you fast to where you're supposed to be. But on live, it really felt like it was starting me at diamond where I left off. You know, the season. Well, actually, didn't place for 2 seasons on my main, so it was sticking me like right at 3250 where I ended the last place or the last time I placed, and then I was just going up or down from there, regardless of role. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens when it actually goes live September 1st. But if you want
Well,
to
Scott
know
Mercer did clarify that they are not throwing out your stats
MMR.
for the roll Q beta.
Well, if you want to know how to play in Roll Q, I strongly suggest you check out Omnic Lab Podcast because they're going to be able to tell you what you should be doing, how you should be playing, and you'll learn a lot listening to that podcast. So let's go ahead and close out the show, guys. We encourage you to follow us on Twitter at OwlRecap. If you want to say something a little bit longer, send your emails to contact@owlrecap.com. If you want to support us, you can listen to the show. You can find us on any podcatcher pretty much. You can check us out live at twitch.tv/Owl Recap. We usually do the show about 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Pacific on Monday nights. If you want to join our or if you want to check out the live show later, you can check it out on youtube.com/Owl Recap. If you want to join our Discord, you can find us squatting in the Omnic Lab Discord. That's discord.me/Omnic Lab. What else? Oh, reviews, iTunes reviews. They help us a ton, and we have one this week. Slippery Snake 321 says the quintessential podcast for Overwatch League fans. We appreciate that. Thank you so much. There's a lot of good podcasts out there that do the same thing that we do. But thank you so much for saying that. It means a lot to us. Recent interviews on YouTube. We got Decay in, and we should have some content coming out from the Kit Kat Rivalry weekend. If you want to support us even further, patreon.com/OwlRecap. What am I forgetting, guys? Forgetting something.
That's it.
I think that you said everything. Yeah.
Game night. Game night is what I'm forgetting. Game night is this Friday, the 30th. I play. Why should people come to game night?
Game night is a super fun time, guys. If you want to play with other members in the community, if you want to play with Bob, Mel, and me, is the place to be. Join the OmniClab Discord. We do it at the end of every month. This month is going to be on August 31st. We'll all be there hanging out.
August
It's going
30th.
to be the August 30th. My bad. It's going to be the first game night where we will be playing 2-2 in the non-PTR. So this should be pretty fun. You guys won't have to have the PTR downloaded. Just log into the game and we're good to go. So looking forward to this one.
It was one of the most competitive game nights I've ever been in on the last one. Special thanks to Shockmaster and Tundra for helping us get that set up. But we are gonna go, guys. I play. Where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at iplaigames. You spell that IPLAI games.
And Mel, where can people find your beautiful face?
You can find me on Twitter. Probably not my face, but you can find my comments on Twitter at MelOverwatch.
Well, you can find her face on the live broadcast or on YouTube anytime you would like.
Okay.
And if you want to find me, you can find me on Twitter at Blazin_Bob. That's BLAZZIN_BOB. We're coming to the end of the season, and it's bittersweet, but boy, I'm excited about the playoffs, and it's gonna be good. We will see you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye.
I'll recap out.